Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Lekon Onobanjo. Here are some stories making rounds beyond the continent. Israel has declared a state of emergency after launching Operation Rising Lion, a major overnight assault targeting Iran's nuclear sites and top military commanders, including Revolutionary Guard Chief Hossein Salami. In response, Iran fired over 100 drones towards Israel, with the IDF working to intercept the threat. Iranian state media reported that residential areas in Tehran were hit, with civilians, including children, among the casualties, though these claims remain unverified. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said the strikes were vital to counter a threat to Israel's survival, while Iran's supreme leader promised harsh retaliation. The U.S. has denied involvement despite Iran's accusations, as the region braces for further escalation and immediate counterattacks. Meanwhile, the Israeli army spokesperson confirmed that senior members of the Iranian regime's security leadership were killed in the strike and that more than 100 targets across Iran were attacked.
יצאו לתקיפה 200 מטוסי קרב והטילו מעל 330 חימושים שונים. במהלך הלילה נתקפו מעל 100 מטרות ברחבי איראן, ובתוכן בכירי המטה הכללי האיראני ומובילי תוכנית הגרעין. כעת אני יכול לאשר כי בתקיפה חוסלו בכירי ההנהגה הביטחונית של המשטר האיראני. הרמטכ"ל האיראני בקרי, מפקד משמרות המהפכה סלמי וראש מפקדת החירום רשיד. יחד איתם חוסלו מפקדים נוספים עליהם נדווח בהמשך.
Well, these are actually live images from the nuclear sites where Israeli strikes actually hit. And of course, that's in Iran, which happens to be a place where nuclear plants is actually established. And we understand that a lot of these facilities in Iran have been decimated by the Israeli strikes. And of course, according to what I said earlier, some of the top commanders were also hit in that major strike in Iran. In the meantime, Israel has temporarily closed all of its diplomatic missions worldwide as its military operation in Iran continues. The foreign ministry said in a statement that consular services would not be available to Israeli citizens currently abroad as a result. It urged Israeli overseas to complete on an online form updating their location and situation and advised those in need of urgent assistance to contact the ministry situation room directly. The system and the statement also warned Israelis abroad to avoid displaying national symbols in public, refrain from posting identifiable information or travel plans on social media, and avoid attending large-scale events linked to Israel. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has reacted to the lethal Israeli airstrikes early on Friday, pledging a legitimate and powerful retaliation. We also tell you that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he expects several waves of Iranian attacks following Israel's major airstrikes on the country early on Friday. In a video address, Netanyahu revealed he had originally planned the operation for April but was delayed. The strikes targeted around 100 sites, including military and nuclear facilities, and reportedly killed several top Iranian generals and scientists. Iran has called the strikes a declaration of war.
צריך להניח, ואתם צריכים להניח, אני מניח, שתהיה התקפה נגדנו, היא יכולה להיות התקפה והתקפות בגלים קשות מאוד, והיה צורך לפעול. אני קבעתי את תאריך הביצוע לסוף אפריל 2025 מסיבות שונות.
Now, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, has defended the country's recent strikes on Iran, calling them a calculated and necessary action. Speaking to reporters, Danon said the attacks were based on nuclear intelligence and were in response to what he described as an escalating existential threat. He added that Israel is now preparing its population for what could be a very intense day ahead.
Last night, the State of Israel launched a preemptive operation against Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile infrastructure. Dozens of sites across Iran were struck with precision, and many senior terrorists in the IRGC were eliminated. This was a calculated and necessary action based on clear intelligence and carried out in response to an escalating existential threat. The goals of our operation are very clear, is to make sure that Iran will not have nuclear capabilities and to stop the ballistic missile operation. And I will elaborate on that. You know, they producing hundreds of missiles. They wanted to get to a position where they can compete with Russia and the US regarding ballistic missiles. So we want to stop both the ballistic missile operation and the nuclear reactor. Meanwhile, the Secretary General has made last night a statement expressing concern over our operation. But I must ask, where was the Secretary General when Iran spent years arming itself while vowing to wipe Israel off the map? Where was his voice when Iran rained hundreds of missiles and drones on our civilians? His silence in the face of Iran's constant aggression has been deafening. We don't know how long it will take. You know, we prepared the population in Israel to embrace for attack coming from Iran. Last night they sent more than 100 drones.
To discuss this further, I'm joined by Temsanka Zhou, who is an international journalist and a global affairs analyst. Thank you so much, Temsanka, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Lekon.
So let's start with the strikes. What do you make of that particular assault from Israel down into Iran, hitting their nuclear plants and facilities?
Okay, so I think this is a massive escalation. In my recollection, I have been around the journalists' circles and the newsrooms for quite a while. I cannot remember something that is as extensive, as targeted, as severe, as effective, as an attack on Iran as what we are having now outside what used to happen between Iraq and Iran in the 1980s. There is no attack that I remember that was as extensive as this. You are talking about probably 200 bombers that were involved, loads of missiles. You know the reports that are coming back in terms of the targets that were hit, the number of senior people that were killed in Iran is just a massive undertaking. And also, if you think that there was a second phase of attacks, especially when you talk about the Mantas, the core of the uranium enrichment process in the nuclear program that they have, and then Isfahan, and I think there are other areas that have been hit as well, but not just the nuclear side or the military commanders that were targeted in Tehran, but also the the infrastructure, if you like, military, the ballistic missile areas, towards the border with Iraq. So this is as extensive as anything that I can think about, Lekon.
Do you think that Iran could have averted these strikes by just agreeing to the deal and stopping the nuclear program?
I'm not so sure that is a correct assessment. It is very clear when U.S. President Trump was speaking about this issue and initiating those discussions with Tehran that were being held, I think, in Moscow. So what he was talking about there is he believes in peace, and he had spoken to Israel several times and tried to tell them not to attack Iraq. But we all know, number one, from the work that Mossad was doing in Iran, the use of the drones, the targets, the intelligence, the ability to be able to pinpoint with precision where the commanders were at that particular time. We have always known that the attack on Iran by Israel was planned a long time ago, and it was always almost ready for the press of that button whenever that green light was given. But it was mainly because the Americans were reluctant to do that, especially under the Trump administration, because they believe that any escalation in that region, especially given what's going on in Gaza, will undermine the message of peace that they're trying to push across the world, especially to try and end the war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as other conflicts around. Because what this will do is it could get things to escalate. So I'm not so sure that there's anything that Iran would have done that would have convinced Israel to do it differently. Because we saw within the last year that the approach changed. Israel is now targeting leaders. They targeted leaders of Hamas, Hezbollah, as well as the leaders of the Revolutionary Guard and other military areas in Iran. So this is an escalation beyond the rules that they used to play by.
And now we see that Iran has actually responded with the firing of about 100 drones into Israel. And of course, the Iran experts in the country are saying that there's still going to be a large-scale retaliation into Israeli territory. Now, would that be a wise call for Iran to take on that kind of attack on Israel in reprisal?
I think one of the most important things is that although especially Western leaders that have been speaking about this, they have been saying, or even Russia, I mean, to be fair, they have been saying that they recognize, the Western leaders were saying that they recognize Israel's right to defend itself and then to be preemptive in the way that they assess the risk. But at the same time, they were urging that there must be caution, de-escalation, diplomacy. And I think Moscow added a voice and said that if they are concerned about the nuclear program in Iran, they fear that they are very close to reaching that threshold point where they might say they have enriched the uranium enough to make a weapon, and they have ballistic missiles to carry it, and they have the capability at that point. So I think those issues were expressed in Vienna. I think the International Energy people were talking about this and the compliance. The United Nations Security Council was speaking about this. So I think by and large, this thing is likely to escalate, and if it escalates, it's going to be very, very difficult. Think of yourself as the country that's under attack, and people telling you to take it easy when you have lost the military leaders, you have lost the infrastructure, it's probably been taken way back. The power in the political circles would want to be seen to be responding in whatever way that they can. We know they have ballistic missiles that can reach Israel within minutes, rather than the other type of missiles that can travel and they will be easier to intercept if they are slow and they take hours. But the type of ballistic missiles that they have can actually reach Israel within minutes. So it's difficult to respond or to defend against such an institution, which is why the Israeli or the IDF are trying to destroy part of this infrastructure and that capability, because they're trying to reduce the ability that Iran has to respond. The danger, though, is that if this escalates, which it's likely to do, you don't know what form that's going to take, because now we know there are some missiles that have been fired from Yemen in the direction of Yemen. We don't know whether all the other NATO forces around the area will be asked to assist Israel. And then is this going to move away from all these other peace initiatives that have been going on? What about these talks that were happening in Oman? So this thing is going to be, it could potentially be messy. but one hopes that it probably won't reach that end.
And we also have Lebanon and Syria on the fringes. We don't know how they would also take this or react to this. But then thank you so much, Sanka Zhou, for sharing your insights with us.
Welcome.
Let's now go on a break on Beyond the Continent. When we return, we'll tell you that black box has been found at the site of the India air crash. Do stay with us. We'll be back in a bit. We'll now bring you updates on the crash in India. A rescue mission has been completed at crash site. Buildings were searching for missing people, and aircraft debris in charred buildings in Ahmedabad began on Friday after more than 240 people were killed in an Air India Boeing 787 crash. Local media reports that India was considering grounding the airline's 787 fleet for safety checks. The Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, with 242 people on board, was bound for Gatwick Airport south of London, which took off over a residential area and disappeared from view before a huge fireball was seen rising into the sky from beyond the houses, CCTV footage showed. Well, the family of Ngatoy Sharma, a cabin crew member on board the Air India flight that crashed on Thursday, is mourning her loss. Her father, Congrelaptam Nandish Kumar Sharma, known as Icha, clutched a photo of his daughter and joins other families of victims still waiting for updates as the investigation into the crash continues. They say no information has reached them about their family members who were staff on board the crashed flight.
तो गुजर चुका है, लेकिन हम लोग को कुछ तो खबर मिलना चाहिए ना, कुछ नहीं मिला है। इसका माँ, इसका पापा, इसका बहन कैसे घर में पड़े हुए होंगे, जरा उन लोग को तो सोचना चाहिए। शरीर भी तो मिला भी नहीं, क्या कुछ मिलेंगे या क्या करेंगे, कोई मेरी बेटी 2023 अप्रैल में है।
While eyewitnesses described their experiences, and they said bodies were fully burnt. Some didn't have a leg or a forehead.
क्या हुआ, बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट हुआ क्या? मंगल देखे तो प्लेन फूटा है।
और आप बता रहे थे धुआं
बहुत भयंकर काला काला ही दिखता था, इतना धुआं था, आग बहुत जल रही थी।
हाँ, तो हम गए तो सब डेड बॉडी बिखरे, सब काट मार था विमान का, और सब डेड बॉडी थी, सब जले हुए वो थे। ऐसा तो अंदर जो डॉक्टर हाउस में थे वहाँ से हम कोई ऐसा मतलब जिंदा अमुक थे, उसको लेके जो 108 थी ना उसमें डाल के ले जाते थे, मगर ऐसा कोई अंदाजा नहीं था कि कोई बच्चा होगा। चारे बाजू बस के कोई किसी का पैर नहीं है तो किसी का मस्तक नहीं है तो किसी का आगे का मुंह नहीं है, पूरा जल के मतलब कोयला बोलते ना, ऐसा सब हो गया था बिल्कुल।
कैसे आग लगी ऐसे करके सबको जताया, तो बोल के उसको भागे। मेरी बहन तो बाहर उठ के भाग गई, तो वापिस मेरी बहन सबको लेने गई। तो सब मासिया थी रोटी बनाने वाली, तो उसको सबको लेके मेरी बहन निकली, मेरी लड़की बड़की सब निकली वहाँ से। तो विमान एक ही दम से वो नीचे गिर गया, सब आखिर पूरी हॉस्टल टूट गई, डॉक्टर कितने सारे मर गए।
Also, the only passenger to have survived the Air India plane crash says he can't believe he's still alive. Speaking from a hospital bed in Ahmedabad, Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, a British citizen, talks about how the plane's door broke and there was enough space for him to get out. Ramesh, who was reportedly seated in seat 11A, is the only one of 242 people aboard the London-bound flight to have survived, with at least 24 others killed on the ground.
वो मेरे नज़रों के सब सामने हुआ था। मेरे खुद को भी बिलीव नहीं होता कि मैं कैसे उसमें से जिंदा बाहर निकला, क्योंकि थोड़ा टाइम लेके तो मेरे को लगा था कि मैं भी मरने वाला हूँ, लेकिन जब मेरी आँख खुल के मैं देखा ना तो मुझे लगा मैं जिंदा हूँ। तो मैंने ट्राई किया, जब मेरी सीट थे वो मेरी बेल्ट निकाला, मेरे के अंदर ही जब टेक ऑफ हुआ ना तो सडनली 5-10 सेकंड कैसे लगा जैसे स्टक हो गया वो। बाद में से मेरे को लगा कि कुछ हुआ, बाद में प्लेन में लाइट ऑन हो गई, ग्रीन और वाइट। बाद में वो पता नहीं वो प्लेन टेक ऑफ ज़्यादा करने के लिए वो रेस तो बोलते हैं क्या, रेस दिया होगा ऐसा कुछ, और सीधा स्पीड में ही घुस गया। जहाँ क्या था वो मैं जो साइड पे था ना, वो साइड हॉस्टल पे नहीं लैंड हुई थी। हॉस्टल के जो ग्राउंड फ्लोर है ना, जैसे नीचे, वहाँ लैंड हुई थी। तो मुझे दूसरे के बारे में मेरे को पता नहीं, लेकिन मैं जहाँ लैंड हुआ था ना, वो नीचे की साइड थी। तो जब वहाँ थोड़ा पेस भी था प्लेन के जब बाहर, तो जब जैसे मेरा डोर टूटा ना सब, तो मैंने देखा ना जब सामने कि थोड़ा इधर पेस है, तो मैं ट्राई कर सकता हूँ निकलने के लिए। तो मैंने ट्राई किया निकलने के लिए, तो फिर मैं निकल गया उधर।
Well, still on the India air tragedy, investigators on Friday recovered a black box recorder from the crash site of the London-bound passenger jet that plowed into a residential area of India's Ahmedabad city, killing at least 265 people on board and on ground. The Air India Boeing 7878 Dreamliner issued a mayday call shortly before it crashed around lunchtime on Thursday after lifting barely 100 meters from the ground. One man on board the plane, which was carrying 242 passengers and crew, miraculously survived on Thursday's fiery crash, which left the tailpiece of the aircraft jutting out of the second floor of a hostel for medical staff from a nearby hospital. Finally, we tell you that the iconic Olympic cauldron balloon from the 2024 Paris Games will return to the skies starting on June 21, coinciding with France's Fête de la Musique. The 7-meter ring of electric flame, once a major draw during the Olympics, will now be available to visitors every summer evening through September 14 for the next 3 years. While it no longer features Olympic branding, the lead mist flame remains unchanged. The installation, located at the Tuileries Garden near the Louvre, was visited by President Emmanuel Macron and Mayor Anne Hidalgo. Funded by the Olympic Organizing Committee and EDF, the flame balloon offers a unique way for locals and tourists to relive Olympic memories through to the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Do remember that you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. And you can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Do also watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, StarTimes channel 274, Arvo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Likon Onobanjo.